kind of like, I think I'm legally obliged to have a Zelda game in the top 10 because pretty much all of them are some of the best games ever made. But the one I've gone for is the most recent one, Breath of the Wild, for the Switch. Of course, the other ones I could pick, Ocarina of Time was brilliant. What's it called, Wind Waker, top notch. Not played the Wii one, never got around to it, I don't know why. I think I played Twilight Prince actually, so there's two big gaps there, but we'll move past that for now. Breath of the Wild on the Switch was brilliant. We talked about open world games previously, and Ocarina of Time was kind of one of the early 3D open world game. You know, it kind of gave you this kind of big world just to kind of walk around. Obviously, the areas were kind of gated off and that sort of thing, but you couldn't get to it. But there's a big Hyrule field and everything kind of around it. The kind of the idea of like having a big hub world with things around it was fantastic. Whereas Breath of the Wild is literally like a big open world. It's just open. But being able to do that, just to navigate it however you want, it's kind of big strength because it's a game where you just kind of go, what's over there? Right, let's go. Boom, and you go off. The fact that your Link can just climb up stuff. Any kind of part of the world, he can kind of get through to a certain point. This kind of shows up, how open an open world game could be. Like a lot of games previously, you kind of try to go somewhere and you can't because your character just walk from the spot. Whereas Zelda, Link will climb up something, he'll go up a cliff, you'll be able to go around this way. And that sense of exploration is fantastic. Like when I first started playing the game, like there's these kind of big towers that you climb up and they open up the map. I thought, you know what? I'm just going to open up all those first. I'm just going to get the map all fully open up. So that's what I did. I kind of started with the first one. I think I was just got to the top, highlighted the nearest ones, and just started going around the map that way. And that's all I did. I didn't do the story modes. I didn't do many of the temples. The kind of the kind of pure Zelda dungeon kind of parts of the game. I just went around and did these things. Spent probably hours just doing that, and it was brilliant. I probably got into areas I shouldn't really gotten into, like the fire area was a bit tricky because I don't think I was had the right equipment to go down to it. But it was just like that's how I played the game, and it was the game let me do it, and I could do it. I could go around and just do all these things, and then go right. I've done that. Let's do a bit of the story now, and then that put me in a good bit for the story because go around that I just naturally kind of leveled up. I just naturally kind of improved my character because it's kind of great kind of thing behind it where you kind of build up your stamina, you build up your hearts, as like in all games, but also you kind of like getting equipment, you're learning recipes because you can cook, you're kind of realizing that if I go to the cold bit of the map I should probably get some furs because otherwise Link's going to get too cold. The cohesiveness of the world is fantastic, and the way it just kind of, again, it's that Nintendo thing of making like something so complicated look so easy. Because you just think I should be able to do that, and you can do it, and you don't think about how difficult it would be to kind of get that to work. Like, being able to cut down a tree, push down a river, and set fire to it to kill some bad guys that way. That's massively complex, but it's so easy to do because it makes all the sense in the world. I think that's what the great success of Breath of the Wild is. It kind of takes things that are inherently complicated and just makes them easy. Like, just climbing up stuff. You just climb it. There's nothing complicated to it. There's no kind of gating to it. It's like if it's too steep, it's too steep, and it makes obvious sense where things are too steep. It's just that kind of Nintendo way of just kind of taking really difficult concepts and just boiling them down to their essence and making them simple to understand. Yeah, and this game's just full of it. This game's just full of those kind of things where it just makes things that seem complicated incredibly easy and fun, and it's just a joy to play. Yeah, Zelda Breath of the Wild, like just from a graphical perspective, just kind of when you crest that hill and see a castle or something in front of you and just see like all this kind of opportunity in front of you, there's few games that kind of capture that feeling of just exploration and finding and discovery like this game does, and that's why it's one of the 10 best games of all time. So when I have a PC, I think I mentioned this before, like there's big stacks of games. I think there's like 100 discs in it. There's two special reserve, and they just chucked loads of stuff at you. And in one of the discs somewhere was a copy of The Settlers 2, which is this kind of real-time strategy world building can't really think of the genre for it now, to be honest. You're like a bunch of Roman people, explorers, wash up on this island, and you just got to build stuff. So you got like a simple central hub place, and you send out guys to build, like, say, a woodcutter's hut, and he goes out and makes wood, and then you can build, like, say, wells for water, and then you can build, like, little hunter shacks. You guys who go out build, capture food for everybody, little fishing huts. Then you need to build, like, forestry guys, because they can replant the trees so you don't run out of wood, and there's quarries for stone. And then once you've got that, you can build bigger things like farms, and then you can build breweries for beer for your workers, and mines. And it's just this whole thing of just like an ecosystem being built around you. You know, you kind of lay out the roads and lay out the structure of what you want, and then you guys just go out and do it. I mean, there's very little interaction from you other than saying, go build that there, and they go and do it, and then you just kind of watch this kind of like toy world just kind of build in front of you. You kind of see all your guys going out, kind of, you know, sorting the roads out, and then the more they use the roads become bigger. Then you think, okay, we'll get some donkeys in there, and just that kind of toyness to it. I'm just going like, right, I'm going to set this thing up, and I'm just going to sit back and watch it, and then just see you guys just go for like, you know, 20 minutes or so, just kind of building all this stuff. And that's, you're kind of tweaking stuff here and there, like, you know, I want that stored there, move those kind of things there. But it's not as complex and in-depth as something like SimCity, where you're having to really kind of get into the nitty-gritty of how things are built. You just kind of go, I want that built there, I want that built there, go do it, and you guys do it. And I think that level of, you know, taking things back a little bit to where you're not having to get into the kind of really fiddly stuff just makes the game so relaxing and so fun to play. Because, yeah, it's just building up your own world and just seeing what you guys do, and then just kind of think, actually, no, you know what, build that there. We'll run out of wood, so we're not that down there. We'll build a farm there now. Kind of tweaking and iterating on it. Yeah, it was brilliant. I love the Settlers 2. I never really played anyone after that. I don't know if they ever kind of captured the kind of that feeling as much as they did in this game. I'm not sure. I think after that there was a push to kind of make things more complex, more complicated, much more make it more like I don't know, because it's not, there's battles involved, but it's not like that complicated. You just kind of have an armor, you just kind of build a barracks next to your city, and then guys want to attack, they try to attack, sort of thing. But again, you're not directing the battles that much, you're just kind of making sure they've got enough dudes to get to win, basically. So yeah, it's just an easy game to play. That's just kind of just a chill game. You just kind of relax and just kind of go, you know what? I'm just gonna watch my guys just chill and do some fishing for a bit. And that's all I want to do today. And that's great. And that's Settlers 2 lets you do that, and that's why I had such a good time with it, because it was. I mean, it's much more complicated than a screensaver, but it has that kind of feel to it where it's just like you can just put it on the screen and just kind of go, you know what? I'm just happy to watch my world. I'm happy to watch my guys just walking around and delivering stuff. And I'm happy. They're happy. I'm happy.
It's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go.
One thing that's kind of ribbon. Is that a word, ribbon? I don't know. But right through the middle of this list is Sega and the arcade. That kind of run of theirs. I suppose it's still going on, kind of, because the arcade's still there. But that kind of pure great era of arcades for Sega, up until probably the early 2000s. That's all over this list, and we're back again with Crazy Taxi. But what was so good about Crazy Taxi was that it managed to kind of capture that feeling from the arcade, that kind of bonkers aesthetic and feel of the Crazy Taxi arcade game. Again, where it's when you kind of feel like you're clinging to a rodeo bull that's tearing down a street or something, and you're just kind of trying to direct it in the kind of right direction as best you can. Which is how Crazy Taxi is. You're kind of like you're a taxi driver, go around the city collecting fares and just having to get to where they want to get to as quickly as possible to get the most money. But on the Dreamcast, they managed to kind of capture that feeling from the arcade, but also expand on it. You know, they had all these kind of mini games and stuff built into the game that would help you to play it. Like It'll learn you all these kind of tips and tricks of the game in kind of fun ways. That weren't there in the arcade, you know, the bowling mode and that kind of stuff was just real fun. Obviously, the bedrock of the game is the arcade mode, and it's as good as the Dreamcast is in the arcade, which isn't necessarily always true with arcade games. It's that the cab experience is really important to kind of make an arcade game feel as good as possible. But here, it captures the feeling of the game without having to have the kind of big arcade cabinet. It's quite impressive how it does it, and it's brings all that feeling and that sense of excitement home and puts it under your TV where you can play it anytime when you want. And it helps that like the game is, yeah, it's a driving game, but it's such an easy driving game to play. You know, it's not too worried about over the top mechanics like a Gran Turismo or something like that. It's like a lot of games at the time were kind of leading towards the kind of simulation side of things. But it's like, nah, you know what? Just go nuts in a taxi and have fun. Go to a KFC and pick up somebody else up, and that's all Crazy Taxi sets out to deliver. But that's all it needs to deliver, and it does it so well. It's such a perfect arcade experience that's available, you know, on the Dreamcast or, you know, whatever emulation you want these days. It's probably like one of the purest arcade games, but also one of the best arcade games that you get to bring into your home as well. It doesn't need the arcade cabinet to make it special. It already is special, regardless of whether you're playing it in the arcade or in your house. Now, Streets of Rage 2 might be the best scrolling beat 'em up of all time, but the problem for me is it's not Final Fight. Final Fight remains my first true love of beat 'em ups in the arcades. Yeah, we'd had Double Dragon, but then seeing this game come along, you know, the kind of that classic CPS2 Capcom look with massive sprites, booming sound from the arcade board, was just mind-blowing, and is probably one of my favourite arcade games, pure arcade to play. But the fond memories I really have for the game is when I picked up the Mega CD. Final Fight CD is one of the best home conversions of the game. The game kind of struggled to convert over previously because just the sheer chutzpah of that arcade game was hard to kind of get into a cartridge. Like the one on the SNES, I think it only had 2 players and some levels removed. There was a later one that had similar issues, whereas this one on for the Mega CD is probably as close to the arcade as you're going to get on the kind of 16-bit, well, 16-bit and a bit console, because it's got Mega CD attached. Those kind of consoles is probably going to be as good as it gets, but the soundtrack's redone and is amazing. It's obviously it's tweaked so it hasn't got the kind of harshness of the arcade experience. The Final Fight arcade machine is very harsh to play, and it does get very difficult very quickly. Whereas this is a bit more balanced, you kind of probably get a bit further into it. You can probably learn it a bit easier than you can do the arcade game. But yeah, it's just that aesthetic, just the Hagar and his mustache, and just that world just really properly connected with me. And it's always a game that I can remember. It's always a game I remember seeing it for the first time, at like the indoor market witness, just seeing it. Like seeing it in real life for the first time and hearing that booming noise out the arcade machine, the phone ringing, all that kind of stuff. This is a nostalgia one, really. This is why it beats. It doesn't beat Streets of Rage 2. Streets of Rage 2 is a better game to play. There's other games probably scrolling beam ups that are better than Final Fight, but this one got me in a way those other games didn't. And yeah, Final Fight is just one of my favourite games. Hands down, it's just brilliant. I love it. The CD version is the one I probably played the most, and that's why it's on the list. The arcade game is fun, but like I say, the difficulty's there, so I'd probably recommend this one for the Mega CD. Time attack mode, brilliant. Music, brilliant. Great graphics. Just, it's Final Fight. What more can I say? It's just one of the best games.
帝国の手によって発掘された9世紀の兵器は人類の生存を脅かす
But by the time this came out, it was pretty obvious that the console was dead. My beloved Sega Saturn was dead. I remember this coming out, Panzer Dragoon Saga coming out around the same time as Final Fantasy VII, and there was like a lot of talk like, this is the better game. This is much more fun. This is the superior JRPG. I don't think I'm the right person to make that kind of call, but this game, yeah, I remember it being really good, really properly good. I got the first disc off the cover of Sega Saturn magazine, which was good, and I actually found it in a shop. I actually bought this game at the time of the release and had it in my hands. I lost it, which is a story for another time. Just lent to somebody who dropped out of college and they never returned it, so, you know, tragedy and all that sort of thing. But I remember, getting this game, and I think Sega Saturn magazine had a pretty good guide for it, and I just played through the whole thing. I remember going through all the discs in a few weeks, if that, just rinsing this game from beginning to end. The aesthetic of it was brilliant. That kind of the weird kind of Panzer Dragoon world is really interesting. The kind of Mobius designs looks really good, and the kind of Ghibli style story, I suppose. But I just remember doing things to your dragon. The combat system's really good, where you have to kind of move around objects to blow them up. It was such a good experience playing through that game and completing it, and just having so much fun with it. I just can't even put into words how good it was. Has the game held up? I mean, that's tricky to judge, because it's not one, because of the problems with the original game, not being kept. It's not one, and the issues with emulating Saturn games. It's not a game that's kind of come back like a Final Fantasy VII that's kind of been repackaged and come back in different times, different versions. It's kind of like this thing in amber, and it's this kind of, it's like a mosquito in amber from its time, that's kind of frozen, and there's no way to kind of go back to it other than playing the original game, which you have to kind of contend with the graphic issues of the Saturn and the kind of the control issues, whatever. But all I can say is I had one of the best times of my life playing through this game. One of the best times of my video game life was completing this game. Sat up in my bedroom, just blasting through it, enjoying the aesthetic, enjoying the world, enjoying the music. Just the whole thing was brilliant, and I think it remains one of the early JRPGs I've got all the way through and completed. I think the way it compelled me to play it through is the reasons why it's so high on the list and why I had such a good time with it. I think it's one I really connected with, and one I can I recommend it? That's tricky, but I certainly can't argue with the time I spent with it, and the time I had with the game was, like I say, one of the best times I've had playing video games. Now, the first time I saw Gunstar Heroes was after a sleepover. Did this kind of local rental service where a guy would deliver games to your house. You rent them out for a week, whatever. I rented out Gunstar Heroes for the Mega Drive, and oh my goodness, it was so fun. I'm pretty sure it must be on easy, but I think we completed it that morning, just hammering ourselves through it. But the game was and is just one of the best platform shooting games you'll ever find. The structure of it, being able to kind of select any kind of the first of 4 stages, and then before you kind of go into the rest of it, was great. The levels themselves were brilliant. The most famous one is Dice Palace, where you kind of play through this board game. We have to kind of roll a dice to move on to the next stage. The bosses were sublime. 6 Force again is the kind of one that stands out, where it's kind of big robot thing that transforms into different kind of shapes and forms and stuff. And it shouldn't have been possible in Mega Drive, really. The things it was throwing around, the volume of stuff it was throwing around the screen. Again, that feeling of kind of barely controlled chaos, where you can kind of sometimes you can't even see a guy in the screen because of the explosions going on. All you can see is your laser blasts coming out. Double green stars, because that's what you do to win. Just flying everywhere as you're trying to I think there's a heart there. I better go get that, because things are just going nuts. Because Treasure, they spun off from Konami. It's very much got the kind of classic early 90s platformer look, the kind of squat sprites and the kind of really kind of clean animation style. It's just brilliant. It's just fantastic, and it still holds up. You can still have a great game of this today because the controls are so tight, the controls are so good. It's just slick as anything you like. You know, it's tough on high difficulty levels, but I think it's a game that you can learn. You can get through learning the stages. It's not a game that's aged that badly. You know, I think it kind of still works really well, and it's just fun. Just the over the top craziness of all these kind of explosions going off, the bosses flying in every left, right, and center. The kind of daft aesthetic of the characters. You know, who are you? You're like red and blue, and then green's gone off to be a bad guy, but then black is the real bad guy, and then there's gold and silver, the big robot. I think I can't remember at the end, but yeah. Gunstar Heroes is probably the best treasure game, I think. It's tricky. The best treasure platform game is, you know, Alien Soldier's good. Some of the, obviously, you know, Guiding Heroes I had on this list previously, that was really good. But Gunstar Heroes, it's as good as video games get. It's one of the best Mega Drive games, one of the best 16-bit games. And it's hands down just one of the best games of whatever area you like. Brilliant. But yeah, double green stars, that's what you do. That's always the best. Now, I previously mentioned about losing games to my Sega Saturn. I'm going to tell the story now as we talk about Saturn Bomberman. So I had quite a lot of Saturn games and quite a lot of the kind of, you know, quote, special ones. So I had Knights, I had Dragoon Saga, I had Saturn Bomberman, which you're talking about, I had a lot of the Capcom stuff. And I lent him to a guy at college. He's like, it's got a Saturn, I want to play some games. Oh, sure, yeah, I got some games, you can borrow them off me. Because, like, you know, I kind of moved on to my PlayStation thing by this point, so my Saturn was kind of off to one side. I didn't realise what I had with it, if you know what I mean. So I was like, yeah, you can borrow some games. Lent some games, and then he dropped out, and he just vanished, and I lost contact with him. So all this kind of collection of games was just gone, up in smoke. Which really is heartbreaking when I look back at it, because I had so many, let's say, the kind of good special games for the Saturn. And like I say, Saturn Bomberman was one of those. It's that kind of nuts version where you can have 10 players on it. But obviously never did 10 players. You could play 10 players with the computer. We had like a widescreen TV. I think at this point my mum was working at like a electrical shop, so you got like a good flat screen Sony TV on with a bit of discount. So we had like this really nice widescreen TV that you really could play this version on it without too much difficulty. But like I say, I was only with computers. Computer characters, just myself, but you know, it was brilliant. Bomberman. Bomberman is brilliant. It's, you know, the original battle royale game that still holds up. But then a decade later, whatever, I go to Scotland to have a good time with my pals from the Console Mania forum, and part of that was, you know, we'd go to a pub and there'd be loads of consoles there playing game stuff. But we managed to rig it so that we had a Sega Saturn, a copy of Bomberman, and 10 controllers. So we could actually play 10-player Saturn Bomberman with 10 people. Or more than that, we had to do a tournament. So it was like, you know, 2 semi-finals and a final. We had that many people who were willing to play it. And I won. I won the tournament. I won, you know, I beat everybody else with Saturn Bomberman. And hands down, it's probably the best video game experience of my life. Being actually to play that game with 10 people, projected onto a wall. It was like a sheet sellotape to a wall. Being able to play that game with 10 people as it was intended was mind-blowing. And it was worth the, how long? You know, 10, 15 year wait. It was worth all of that to be able to play that game. To play Saturn Bomberman with 10 people, words fail me to describe how good that was, and that instantly makes it, you know, it's quite a hard thing to recommend because getting all that together is a faff, I will admit. You know, 10 people, 10 Saturn controllers, 2 multi-taps, is that? 2-3 multi-taps? A copy of the game and the console, you know, that's tricky at best. I'm not going to lie to you, that's hard. But if you can, that is for me the best time I've had playing video games. with other people. It was amazing, and I think that's why I had to put Saturn Bomberman up here, just because it's a game that allows you to have that kind of experience of. Yeah, I mean, yeah, online's one thing. You can play 10-player games with online games with 10 players, no trouble at all. But I played Saturn Bomberman with 20 odd other people, and I beat all of them because I am King Bomb, and that's why I love this game so much. I love the aesthetic. I love the 2D Bombermans with all my heart. And that evening, it was probably only about half an hour all told playing that game. Never forget it. Never forget it. What a time I had. This game, I think I got it for Christmas on the Amiga, and I didn't really know what point and click game was. I didn't really know what adventure game was. But a weird game called The Secret of Monkey Island, yeah, I'll give that a go. And I think I remember just being stunned. Like, how old was I? Probably 12, 13 when I played this. And to have a game that confident, because the thing with Secret Monkey Island is, it's like, it's the game where LucasArts really got into their stride. They've had like the Manic Mansion before this, and was Manic Mansion? I can't remember what before this now, but it's good for games before this, and then this game came out. So confident in its writing, so confident in how it's made, that to experience that, at the time, was mind blowing, and it's a game that really kind of defined a lot about what I love about games. That kind of, this is why I love adventure point click games so much, why I love story based games so much. The kind of, yeah, I love platformers, I love everything else, but the joy I had from Monkey Island was amazing, and it's probably the only point and click game I played until I got my PC later on and then worked through Monkey Island 2 and Day of the Tentacle and Sam & Max, those other kind of games, which are all brilliant as well. But this one, the plot's brilliant. It's so funny. It still remains funny to this day. The kind of the pirate aesthetic was just so fresh to me at the time. Like, there was, I think there might have been a Pirates game. Was it Sid Meier's Pirates game? Might have been out kind of out time, but it was more kind of PC based. So there wasn't really anything like this. There isn't still really anything like this. It's kind of like, it's pirates, but they're all talking the things with TM trademarks on it, and it all kind of feels like a slightly heightened reality with all kind of weird stuff in the background of the world. It's just brilliant, the characters are all amazing. The look of it is great. The remastered version later on, yeah, the remastered looks great, but for me it's always about that kind of, the proper kind of chunky pixel aesthetic of the original game. With those kind of, with it zoomed in kind of photo art pictures, I can't know, I describe them like photos that have been, or paintings that have been kind of digitalized. The whole thing, the whole package, just blew my mind. And yeah, I love Secret Monkey Island. I love the story, I love the music, I love the game. It's a shame it never kind of had the kind of the Ron Gilbert, obviously the second game, then didn't do the third one or didn't finalize it as he kind of really wanted, which is always a shame. Yeah, we're always going to have this game as like a perfect example of how good a story a game can tell, how good a character a game can give you. Because there aren't many good characters better than Guybrush Threepwood. It's just the way it is. His kind of bumbling stupidity is fantastic. The Monkey Island will always be special to me. It'll always be the kind of game that really kind of made me understand, how good. That games don't have to be games, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of my life before that I spent, in the arcades and 8-bit games and Spectrum games and stuff. And everything was a game, everything ended kind of with a score. But this was like, this is a story, this is an adventure, this is the proper kind of... It's not a film, it's not a game, it's something else in between that. That's just as good as all those kind of things. It's one of the kind of first games that made me think that games can be more than just shooting bad guys or beating up bad guys. They can be anything they want to get wanky about it for a second. Monkey Island was and is my favourite point-and-click game. It's my first point-and-click game, my favourite point-and-click game. Game I can always go back and play, always go back and enjoy, and will always remain one of my favourite games.
Stand up, Gitaroo man! Why won't you fight?
I can't.
I tried to learn the guitar when I was at school. The guitar. I always tried to learn the guitar when I was at school.
Get up, get up, get
I
up!
tried to learn the guitar when I was at school, but I failed miserably because
Stand up!
I don't know. I just couldn't. I just can't do it. If that makes sense, I just can't operate my hands well enough to be able to play guitar. I could never do it.
Right.
I really wanted to though, because playing guitar is cool. And obviously, later on in life, we'd have kind of rhythm action games where you'd be playing instruments, mainly kind of drum-based stuff. I suppose was the kind of first ones, because hitting a button, hitting a drum is a bit close together. Then you got Gitaroo Man. Gitaroo Man lives, which is the PSP version of the game, which is the one I had. I never had it because I sold one PS2. I never had it for the PS2. So I had this game for the PSP, which isn't probably the best way to play this game, all told, just because a lot of it is reliant on the analog stick. You play the eponymous Gitaroo Man. He's got a Gitaroo, not a guitar, just make it say it's a Gitaroo. And you do a lot of it with the analog stick. There's this kind of line that appears on the screen, and you have to kind of point the arrow in the direction of the line. You'll see it on the screen, so it makes sense. You're doing that with the analog stick, and then the buttons kind of come in at other points of the game. So playing it with a little PSP nubbin isn't ideal, but I did. I played through this entire game on the PSP because it's that good. The music is that good. The aesthetic is that good. The controls are that good. It's genuinely one of the best experiences I've ever had playing video games. I think the songs a lot to do that. So if you don't connect with the songs, or you don't like the style of it, you're just gonna fall off this game straight away. I think, what's the some license songs? Is it all done for the thing? I think it's all done for the game. The opening theme music is amazing. The first level kind of gets you in really well, and then you got the legendary theme, which is easily one of the best songs ever in video games. One of the best songs ever, in fact. Two versions of it, got the acoustic version and the kind of big stadium version at the end. But I had such a good time playing this game on the PSP. It's not even a game it's not even a big screen, not even like a big booming TV set with massive speakers. On the PSP, a small, 3-inch LCD screen with headphones. I had the best time playing this game. Just the best time. And it's a combination of the aesthetic, the music, the controls, all kind of comes together to make it a perfect experience for me. Like I say, the aesthetic might drive you off, the music might drive you off, but for me, it all landed with me in such a massive way. I can't recommend this game highly enough. It gets tricky in places with the button presses and that sort of stuff. A lot of it does get quite tight. You do need to kind of practice the levels to kind of get through them and to be able to enjoy it as much as possible. But that doesn't take away the fact that this is easily one of the best experiences available in video games. One of the most fun games to play. Easily my favourite rhythm action game, even without taking away the kind of, it doesn't have like the plastic guitar of a Gitaroo or something. It's just buttons on the PSP, but this feels more like playing a guitar than playing Guitar Hero does. Don't know what it is, don't know what magic they've done to do it, but just the wanging that stick around with the song stuff is just brilliant. It's just fantastic, and it captures so much about video games that I love. It's unreal, and it's just easily one of my favourite games of all time.
Years later, mankind faces its greatest crisis: the appearance of a mysterious android life form. Its purpose and origin
So here we are.
unknown.
Gone through 100 games until we get to my favourite video game of all time, which is a Hideo Kojima game for the Mega CD, Snatcher.
Infiltrating society by taking the place of
Now, why is this game at the top of my list? Why is it? Why this one? Why this Hideo Kojima game? Why this kind of game?
machine.
Which is, to be honest, something I've struggled with because
Those they kill.
I don't know why. It's just when people say what's your favorite game, this comes to my mind straight away.
Their victims' bodies.
When my son said, "What's your favorite video game?" Snatcher. Wasn't even like a pause. It's just there. It just came to me straight away. And I've only really played it once. I need to kind of make that clear. Again, we talked about a kind of rental service for kind of guys live at your house. So one summer holidays, I rented this game out. I remember seeing it reviewed in meme machines, but I didn't buy it because I couldn't afford games back then because I was only a kid. So I rented it out, and then I spent literally, I think, 2 days straight playing through it. Literally put them on my Mega CD, and I just stayed in my room to play through it, the whole thing. I think my parents are downstairs watching For Wedding to Their Funeral on VHS rental because it just come out. I don't know if that's the wrong time or not, but that's in my head. That's how things are. And yeah, I played the whole thing through. I didn't have a guide. I just got through it because I was so compelled by it. Which is probably easy to understand because the game, I think, from then it seemed like it was doing loads of interesting things, like special things. But really, you kind of go back to it, it's like a mishmash of different things. It's Blade Runner meets Terminator with a bit of Akira in there, with just the kind of Tokyo stuff. And so yeah, the concept isn't as original as it felt when I first played it, kind of with hindsight. But that doesn't stop the world it creates being brilliant. And yeah, the story, it's a very video gamey story, but it's still really good. It's still really enthralling. It's still, I remember it being exciting and fun and interesting and scary in a few places. But that may be because, we're talking about, how old was I? 13, 14, sat in my room in the dark playing through this game. And it's very much a kind of point and clicky visual novel kind of style game. You go into areas, talk to people, investigating things. There's shooting bits in it every now and then, which you can use a light gun. It was the Enforcer was available at the time. You could use that. I didn't. I just used a pad, just kind of go to squares and shoot. And those sections were a bit tricky. I remember the one at the very end was like feeling really just kind of when I got through it, I was like, whew, can't believe I got through that. Just feeling exhausted when I got through it. But that time of playing the game cemented it as one of my favourite games. I've tried to go back to it since, but the problem I had with it is not being able to give it the time to sit down and play it because the Mega CD version had lots of speech in it, but not all of it subtitled. So trying to play it on a handheld on a bus is tricky at best. But also, do I want to ruin that experience I had? Do I want to take away from what I had when I played it the first time? Because I so enjoyed that game. I enjoyed that world so much. I enjoyed characters so much. I enjoyed the whole thing so much. It's kind of crystallized in my head as like my favorite game. If I go back, am I going to ruin that? I feel like I do need to go back and play it. I'll probably might even stream it sometime. Who knows? Yeah, it was easily the best Mega CD game I've ever played. One of the best adventure games I've ever played. And Kojima would go off and do Metal Gear and afterwards. They never really I clicked with them, but nothing like I did with Snatcher. I don't know if it's just because I'm a big Terminator fan, I'm a big Blade Runner fan, who knows? But I just loved the aesthetic of that game. I loved it so much, and to this day I really love this game. I love the idea of this game. I love the fact that it even got made, because it is a little bit obvious in its wearing its influences very much on its sleeve, so it's pretty much to the point of, you sure you're not going to get sued for doing that sort of stuff? But yeah, Snatcher is my favourite game. If you ask me, I will play Snatcher. There's probably better games that I played. There's probably better games on this list. I'm going now. It's not that much of a game, if that makes sense. It's like I say, it's more like a visual novel with bits attached to it, but I can't deny it. It's my favourite game. It just is. I've not had as much fun playing any game than I did when I played this game. When I sat down and turned it on, I literally played the whole thing through. Pretty much in one sitting, it felt like. Just blasted through it. Because the whole thing just compelled me to keep on playing. It just compelled me to kind of get through to the end of the story. It just forced me through by the sheer power of it. And that's why it's on the list, because I don't think any other game has given me an experience like that, and no other game has given me that kind of feeling. So,
From severe amnesia
Snatcher has to be my favourite game of all time.
prior to
Stop me in the street and say, Phil, what's your favourite game? I'm going to say Snatcher.
mysterious mental fog.
That's just the be all end of it. So,
2 years ago, after a
Yeah.
vain attempt to rebuild their
number 1 on this list of 100 games of my favourite video games of all time.
special military
Number 1 is Snatcher.
Gillian is ordered to report to Neo Kobe City as a junker, effective today.